Hey guys, so in today's video I'm going to be talking you guys through my favourite books in 2019. 2019 was a bit of a weird reading year for me. I did complete my Goodreads goal by reading 40 books, which was really exciting. I won that challenge yesterday. Really good way to end off the year, and I read a really great book as well. So in that way, it was a great reading year, but in terms of the actual ratings of the books I was reading, it wasn't that fantastic. What happened was that in January and February, I read a lot of 5 stars, and then in July I read a lot of 5 stars. But throughout the rest of the year, it was kind of mediocre with kind of ratings between a 3 and a 4, which obviously is still really good, but I really missed having 5 stars. So it was kind of difficult when I got to this point in the year, because it's the 31st of December today, where I had to collect my top 10 favourite books of the year. I really was kind of disappointed to see that I just didn't have a great deal of books to mention, and I was struggling to find 10. So this list is actually 9/10. It's a bit confusing, I'll explain it later, but yes, I do have some books to mention. I did read some fantastic books. A couple of these are now some of my favourite books of all time, so yeah, I just, it's a mixed bag really. But without further ado, let's just get on into the video. Also, I'm clinging onto my Christmas mug because it's the last day I can basically be drinking from it. I don't know whether you can tell, but the reason why the lighting is so bad is because it is a very grey, overcast day. I've got a view of fir trees actually. It feels very fantasy-esque with the lighting. But that's not why we're here. And I'm also out of focus. That's so weird. Okay, I'm gonna set this down. Also, I did want to mention that I'm not going through in order of best to worst or worst to best or anything like that. I'm just going from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. The very first book I'm going to mention, I do believe actually was the second book I read this year, or the second book I completed this year. It was the first book I picked up because the other one was following through from 2018. Regardless, this was amazing, and it was really exciting to read it so early on in the year and to love it so much because it was the new release that was The Wicked King by Holly Black. The Wicked King is obviously the second book in the Folk of the Air series, with the Cool Prince coming first. I don't know if you guys can see, but I did rearrange my bookshelf. It's now in a rainbow high order kind of deal. It's confusing, but I do have the Cruel Prince and the Wicked King and the Queen of Nothing here. I would want the Queen of Nothing to be in this, but unfortunately I didn't get to it because I did receive it for Christmas, and I've just had too many books to be dealing with right now. I don't know, I've got 7 books I'm currently reading right now. It's really stressful, but yeah, I haven't got to the Queen of Nothing yet. I'm sure I will love it. I really hope so actually, because I have heard some negative things, but I don't know, I'm a sucker for this series. I obviously gave this book 5 stars, and I gave the Cruel Prince 5 stars as well. The Cruel Prince follows Jude and Tahereh, mostly Jude, who are 2 human girls who get stolen from the human lands and brought to the lands of fairy to live among fairies, who are very different beings from humans. And there's a lot of cunning tricks and violence and magic and just mischief, and it's just a fantastic world. I think the best way that you can kind of picture this world is by just looking at the map, and that kind of gives you all you need to know. I picture this world so fantastically, and I do actually think it is because Holly Black doesn't do a great deal of world building, which is really interesting because people criticize her for that, but I find that because she doesn't, the little that I do get, I can kind of create my own image of this world. So I have got a very vivid picture of this land in my head, which is really fun. And I'm so sorry about the focus. I think it's because of my lighting, but it's cute, so we're gonna deal with it. That was The Wicked King. Yes, just love it so much. And I've also just ordered a bind up of the Spiderwick Chronicles, the thing that made her famous basically, so excited for that to come. That's arriving this week. The next book I have to mention is another one that really stole my heart, and this book is now on my list of my favourite books of all time, and that is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban by J.K. Rowling. It's kind of obvious. I don't really have much to say about this. It's just Harry Potter, but this book in particular has stolen my heart, and I do believe that this book and The Half-Blood Prince are my favourites. I'm not sure. They're also some of my favourite films, but yeah, I need to reread and rewatch them all. 2019 was the year I started annotating. I'm really sad that I didn't annotate this book because I hadn't begun doing that yet, but obviously I will be rereading it in the future because like I've said, it's one of my favourite books of all time. And yeah, we just follow Harry, Ron and Hermione. Lots of stuff goes down. I don't want to spoil anything. If you don't know, then you need to get to know, because I just don't understand people who aren't aware of the Harry Potter series. Sirius Black is my favourite character, and this is his book, so it's a given. The next book I have to mention is Own the Moment by Lentz. This is a self-help motivational, one of those books. I just don't even know what I'm saying, but it's one of those. Lentz is the head pastor of Hillsong, New York City, which was the first Hillsong church in the States. Above everything else, this book is literally just about how to live your life better. It's not preachy. no pun intended. It really did change the way that I live, and I think about this book daily because one of the things it told you to do was set a reminder on your phone that says like, did you find the gold in someone today? And so every day at 8 p.m. I have a reminder that asks me that question, and I find that it really does kind of draw me back to this book and the way that I felt reading it and how I learned so much more about life from it. So yeah, 5 stars for this. Definitely my favourite of the kind of self-help books that I have read. Really recommend it to anyone. Next up we have another book that was my heart, you know, that had my heart, that was everything. Another one of my favorite books of all time, and I really was happy to finish out a series, and it is Crow Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. In my mid-year book, in my mid-year freak out tag, mid-year book freak out, what is that tag called? I don't remember. I'll link it on the screen. I accidentally misspoke and I said that I read this last year. I read Six of Crows last year. I think that's what I was getting confused with, but honestly these books, I can't decide which one I prefer. I genuinely think it's this one, but I'm really not sure. I think I need to reread them like back to back so I can tell. But yeah, this is perfect. I can't wait for the TV series. I'm really happy that I finally bought the Grisha trilogy. Leigh Bardugo's first trilogy set as well, so I'm really excited to get to those as well. And then I can be ready for the series whenever it comes out because we stand Ben Barnes in this house. And that's irrelevant, but again this is a sequel, but I'm gonna say like we're following a kind of a cast of characters. It's a multiple POV book. It's about a heist basically, and it's a ragtag group of people and unlikely friendships come about, and there's romance, but really in like a unique, interesting way. And I don't know, there's just the whole thing. It's just such a masterpiece and so fantastically written, and I'd 100% recommend it to anyone. I really want my little brother to read this actually, but I don't want him to ruin my beautiful copies. One of my favourite series of all time, one of my favourite books of all time as well. Let me just grab some coffee because I'm literally already like losing my voice. One sec. Okay, so I read Crow Kingdom in like March, and then I had a massive gap where I didn't read any 5-star books until July, when I received an ARC from Bloomsbury for the release of Labyrinth, the Labyrinth of the Faun, which was a book based on the fantastic film directed by Guillermo del Toro. And basically what he'd done is he'd come together with Cornelia who's a fantabulous fantasy author, particularly in middle grade fantasy, and they'd come together to create a book that was kind of like a, I don't know, it's so hard to say. It's basically like, it's a version of the film, but it's also kind of a bit of a reimagining because there is more to it. It's not just a direct, you know, it captures the essence of the film, but it adds to it as well. Regardless of whether you like the film or not, whether you feel like you know the whole story because of like the film, I'd still recommend the book. And I think that people who didn't enjoy the film would really enjoy the book, and I also think that people who love the film would really appreciate the book as well. So I have watched the film and I have really enjoyed it, but I think I enjoyed the book more, if I dare say so. Yeah, this is the book. This is obviously the art copy, so this is the actual cover, this one here. I want the hardcover of this, the finished copy, because I would like to compare, and obviously, like I've said, it's in my list of my like top 5 books of all time. It's on my Amazon wishlist because I don't really want to go and buy it for myself when there's so many other books in the world, you know? But definitely one day I would like to get around to reading the finished copy of this book as well. There had been many books before this that I'd been tabbing, but this one was like the first book that I have to mention in this list that I had tabbed. You know, I wasn't actually going to tab this arc because I thought like it could be worth something, you know? Not that I would like sell it, but like it's just an interesting like collector's piece. But there's no chance I'm ever going to get rid of this or like, you know, treat it really like respectfully because I just like appreciate it so much, so I want to leave my mark on it and it will be in my collection forever. This book is set in 1944. We are following a little girl called Ophelia, and she is living in Spain during the Second World War, obviously. Obviously that is the time period we're following. So it is a historical fiction slash fantasy. Slight spoiler, but honestly like no, because it happens like pretty quickly. Ophelia loses her mother and is stuck in this world with her new stepfather, who is a Nazi army officer, as he terrorizes the people around him just brutally. It's just inexcusable, you know? It's just, the way he treats them is just shocking, and there is a bit of description of that, so I would look up trigger warnings, but it's not too much. I still think there's merit in the book that those scenes aren't like too shocking, because you can see the way that the world was just kind of like that back then, and for these people this is kind of what they were used to seeing. So Ophelia is a little girl. She is absolutely swallowed by the grief of losing her mother, and in this new area in Spain where she just doesn't know anyone. She doesn't really have any friends other than a woman called Mercedes, who is on the rebel team. Ophelia meets a faun here. He's called Pan, and he basically tells her that she is the princess of this fantasy land and she has to go and complete these tasks to really prove that she is a princess. So she goes and does that. But the thing that I really love about this story is we're never told whether the faun is real or not, whether he is just a figment of Ophelia's imagination and whether she has conjured him up because she's so grief-stricken. But it's just heartwarming and shows the power of fantasy and the power of escapism in literature. If you are a story lover, if you are a fan of World War II historical fiction, if you like any sort of fantasy, or if you just want a good cry, then this is the book for you. Yes, I did cry a lot. It was a lot. The next book was one that I read straight after that one, and it was Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Jenkins Reid. Another fantastic book, and I was so shocked after having read no 5-star books in like months, then finally pick up 2 in a row. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is an adult historical fiction, literary fiction kind of deal, following Evelyn Hugo and why she had 7 husbands. This book is set during the 20th century, and Evelyn Hugo is kind of old Hollywood actress who was huge in her time and went through some crazy stuff in her life, and we basically explore it all, and there's a lot more to this story than you first see. Obviously this seems like a lot, but like the way it's told and the themes of it are just so intricate that there's no way I could explain it to you, especially without spoiling it. But basically we're following Monique, who's a reporter in the 21st century. She has been asked by Evelyn Hugo to interview her and basically write her biography, which would be published after Evelyn Hugo's death. Evelyn Hugo is by this point an old woman, and she tells Monique her story and then reveals to her right at the end why she chose Monique to write the story, because obviously they have no connection and Monique is not like a very prolific journalist. It's amazing. It's what everyone says it is. It's 100% worth the hype, and you should read it. That's all there is. Next book I picked up was in August, or maybe it was July as well, I don't know, but I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It is The Prodigal by Keller. This is a Christian non-fiction book exploring the parable of the prodigal son, which is one of Jesus' most infamous parables. Which is an in-depth look at that. Really opened up my eyes. I recommend this book to people who have a faith but tend to like reignite their faith and really delve into the sort of person they are. This book is a really important companion to that parable, which obviously is such a fantastic one and one that we should all be aware of. I don't know why I'm holding up in the air like that. Yeah, this was such a short read. I whizzed through it. I really enjoyed it. Next, this is where it gets confusing. This is the point where I don't know whether this video is about 9 or 10 books. I read the entire Infernal Devices series this year. Clockwork Prince, I believe, was my favorite. Yesterday I finished Clockwork Princess, but here's the thing. I can't tell which one is my favorite. I really thought it was Clockwork Prince, but then the epilogue happened in Clockwork Princess. I'm just like, does an epilogue make this book worthy of another 0.25 stars? Or is that kind of cheating, you know? Should the whole book have been worthy of that rating like Clockwork Prince was? So Clockwork Prince received a 4.75 stars from me. My only complaint with it was that the first part was very slow. The first kind of 80 pages, I didn't have anything. It was just boring, basically. But the rest of it was a masterpiece, and you can tell from my tab I flipping adored it, and I felt all the feels in it. Clockwork Princess had action throughout, but I just didn't feel a lot. I kind of had the same stagnant feel as the beginning of Clockwork Prince did, but kind of throughout the whole book. And obviously there were like moments that really brought this book to my attention, but majority of it I wasn't that bothered, and I wasn't that emotionally affected by it. I know that some people cry their eyes out over this book. I did cry right at the end in the epilogue. Like I said, the epilogue was a whirlwind of emotions. I particularly enjoyed this book because of the way that it kind of linked back in with the Mortal Instruments, which is Cassandra Clare's first series. But I would say that those links I don't think are enough to give this book this position in this list, if that makes any sense. So I think it does go to Clockwork Prince, but I'm willing to add Clockwork Princess to this list to make this list 10. But I just don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not going to go into any details about this series. You can look it up if you would like. It's just too much, and I'm sure it would spoil me immediately. I'm just quite far into it now. Unfortunately, I didn't finish City of Heavenly Fire this year, which was one of my goals for this year, but never to mind. I will read it early 2020. I flipping love Magnus. Just every time I read about him, I just love him more and more. And then the final book that I have to mention here was one that I read in August of this year, and I read it in the last 2 days of the month because our internet cut out, and so I didn't have anything to do other than like sit outside and read. So I did that, and I finished this book in 2 days. This is Shatter Me by tahereh mafi. I've heard about the Shatter Me series for years, but I've never been interested in picking them up. I saw the first 4 books in this and they were selling for really cheap, so I decided to pick this book up, and I whizzed through it. I just knew from the minute like I opened the first page this would be a quick read. I just don't know what it was about it, but I loved it, and I would have read the sequel by now if it hadn't been for the fact that I don't own the novellas. Yeah, I need to buy the bind-up of them and read it, but I just haven't got around to doing it yet. But as soon as I do that, I will be whizzing through the series because it was just such a fast read. I told you guys in my August wrap-up and also in my Goodreads like update that this series for me, like, or this first book in the series, brought back the same feels that I had when I read the first book in the Hunger Games for the first time, and not in the way that it was copying the Hunger Games, but kind of just that energy felt the same. I don't know, if you guys were big fans of Hunger Games, I feel like you'd understand what I mean. This book just felt really fresh and exciting, and that's why it earned 5 out of 5 stars. Also, some beautiful poetic quotes. This book is like poetry in prose form. That's all I want to say. Those are the books that I read this year and I love. I can't wait for 2020 to be a really good reading year because I'm really hyping up. I want to read a lot of like books I'm really excited about. Also 5-star predictions. I should do in the video early 2020 where I'm going to be talking to you guys about the books on my list of like 5-star predictions, because I have a lot of them and I want to get to a lot of them early 2020 and like throughout the whole year. Obviously my reading goal for next year is to read 45 books. I was going to do 50, but I really don't want to put it up that high when I am at university, and that is the reason why I have been struggling. And obviously a lot of this year will be spent at university, so I don't want to put that pressure on myself. But I do hope to read more than this year, obviously, because I am boosting out by like 4 or 5 books. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and remember to subscribe. I'd love to have you here with me in the new year. When I posted my last video, we gained like 70 subscribers since I've uploaded that, which was like a week ago. So I don't know what happened. I think my video just hit the algorithm the right way. It soared up in views, and obviously you guys chose to stick around, so thank you so much. I feel kind of overwhelmed that I've got so many new people here, but yeah, I'm just a little bean. I have quite a small channel, but I'm very happy that there are new buddies joining us along the way. So yeah, if you do feel like sticking around, please make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week for another video. Bye.